There you have it, TOP talking very highly for Ggoong as we're right in the middle of this series. Hello and welcome back. I'm Indiana Fraskin Black, still here with Barinto Raz Muhammad. Raz, what you got?
I will say this. Ggoong has one of the highest, or I would say, gold share of his team when it comes to like the entire mid lane of the league. So a lot of gold does kind of pull into him. They have a lot of hope into him, and it's a lot of it just kind of like expectation of what he can do, how he can pour his lead to the rest of the map. It's not working out. And then the last game specifically, he wasn't able to do just that. And a lot of times his ulti, I think Clement said it very well in the sense that they didn't have that much CC. So when you're put in that situation, you have to make best for what CC you do have. The CC was on Malzahar, and he wasn't able to get it off. So there was one time that he tried it in mid lane, and the second time where he was just kind of willy-nilly using it topside when they were getting it pushed into tower, and it just resulted into nothing. So the preceding team fights, you can't get anything off of that if you don't have the ulti.
So is this a champion issue? I mean, you talked about how they weren't fighting correctly around the Malzahar ultimate, but if you give someone like Ggoong, who is talked very highly by his team, such a powerful tool, you priority pick the Malzahar, and then it doesn't pan out, like, where do you go from there? Do you try to grab, like, the Azir or the Ryze? Because we really haven't seen that in Ggoong's champion pool. He's known for his Jace, his Talia, his LeBlanc. You know, none of these big four meta champions really jump out.
He can play the Ryze, and I've seen him done so that's something that he can go towards, but I'd say that his most comfort would come towards Talia even recently, even though we haven't seen that much Talia as of late.
How would you play her in this meta right now? Where do you think
currently,
she fits?
I think she fits into just about every matchup. Talia is unique in the sense that it doesn't matter what you're going into. When you have a window, you can just utilize your ulti just for the instant access towards bottom lane. So I just love that fact that you can use it for it. They just have to find that opportunity. It's not so much just a champion thing, because I think he can find those opportunities on Malzahar. He just played, I would say the team played poorly around that. It seems like they were so scattered on where they wanted to fight. Maybe the discussion didn't happen necessarily. Or maybe I would say Jingdong were moving so quickly that they honestly didn't know where the goalpost was going to be. It kept moving backwards, kept moving backwards, kept moving backwards.
So is that the only solution for TOP? Just reorganize how you're fighting, the execution on the fights, and then suddenly it'll be, you know, rainbows and sunshine?
Yes, a clear composition will do that for you.
Really? You think the rainbows and sunshine will come that easily for a team that is almost going to go 15 series losses in a row?
I mean, if you're that down in the dirt, even just a drop of water, just a little bit is a rainbow for them.
That's true. And on the other side, JDG, are they the real deal? I know it's strength of schedule. They haven't had the highest caliber of opponent, but that looked like a pretty clean game from them.
Yeah, I liked a few bits from them. In fact, they always work as a team. Yagao is always going with the to the top side of the map. If they're looking for those dives, they want to fight, and it seems very cohesive.
So you think it's they're skirmishing, they're fighting?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's enough from us. We're going to send it back over to the casters. Dom, Clement, take it away.
Thank you so much, Frosco. We are back and ready to get into game number 2 between Jingdong and TOP. Now, we just heard from TOP that Ggoong is our mascot. He's the guy who makes things happen. Well, Clement, do you think they can do it?
Well, Ggoong is an OG player with a reputation. He used to play back in Korea, back in the heyday. He actually got a pentakill on Zed. It was one of his most famous, iconic moments. But then things kind of went south. They're still the only Korean team to actually lose to a Chinese team during a World Series. So BO5, they were swept by OMG in Season 4. And after that, Ggoong came here to the LPL, made his way into the LPL from the LSPL, but things have not been going smooth. Especially my big issue with him is actually Ggoong's laning is kind of on the weaker end in terms of LPL mid laners. He's down by 360 gold on average at 20 minutes. So even though he used to be a great player in his heyday, right now in terms of just pure mechanics, I don't really think he's the person that's going to drag TOP from the gutter to playoffs. I don't think you can really make that change.
So,
and going back on Raz, I feel like you're a bit optimistic. So this team really needs some new elements, some new players. Maybe their second unit, they can find something out of that. But going back to Ggoong, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure at this point.
Yeah, well, you and I were talking a little bit during the break about this pick ban composition that we saw out of TOP and how Jingdong seemed to preempt that. They saw the Malzahar, they saw the Tahm Kench, then they proceeded to follow up with a lot of engaged jungler bans, the Sejuani, the Jarvan, and the Zac. So recognizing perhaps that Ggoong, he might have been the intended mascot, but then Karen or XX would have followed up. But then they denied it by putting him on something like Shyvana. Perhaps a little bit more foresight from TOP to prevent this?
I think Jingdong is such a good team to watch because they have a very strong coaching staff. If you look at their games in Demacia Cup, they were the first to go into the Alawi, into the double Targon Brace bot lane, and they've just been able to follow up a lot of trends. Had a great read on TOP right there. They know the meta very well, what Gangplank is looking for, what Malzahar is looking for. They're looking for a lot of pressure bot lane. So I feel like TOP kind of messed up their win condition. They picked into the Tahm Kench, which doesn't really threaten with the CC. And also they left the jungle pick a little while back. So Jingdong were able to ban out all of their engage options, put all the pressure into the top lane against Gangplank. UDJ, in my opinion, is a great coach, former Garena caster as well. So we kind of know a bit about his backstory there as well. We can let's just see what they brew up this time.
Yeah, we're certainly going to have to do so. As the players, you can see they're getting ready to go into Champion Select here, but just now you saw QiuQiu slumping down in his chair, looking really down and in the dirt right there, while Ggoong was giving as many hopeful commands as he can. But again, this team is very far into the desert. They just need a single drop of water, a single breath of fresh air to try to get themselves back into this.
And it's really hard to come up with a winning game plan where you have good lanes and a very executable mid to late game. The problem with TOP I see right now is that they are opting into a lot of good lanes like the Caitlyn lane, but at the same time, the Caitlyn also has her own pitfalls. That mid game where you have to wait till you get three items is so painful, and you cannot make any mistakes during those sieges. Jingdong were just a good enough team to punish that, and now we can see Jingdong insta-locking the Azir. This is Yagao's best champion so far. And in the Demacia Cup to now, we've always seen this banned.
They're following a very similar strategy as well. Zac and Jarvan banned away from XX. Kog'Maw banned away from QiuQiu, eliminating that potential for any sort of late-game hyper carry. And with that Azir, they set themselves up quite well. TOP on the other side banning away Malzahar from Yagao, perhaps preempting some sort of strategy, and again, keeping Yagao off of that Zoe. It's still a Ryze first pick for Ggoong, so can the team mascot step up here in this game too?
Well, if they are going to pick the Ryze, Ryze does have an advantage over Azir during the level 6, level 7 area, so they can try to make roams around that situation. We see XX picking up the Sejuani here. That is going to accelerate that 4-man roam if they get the chance to go to the bot lane. A lot of strong picks still up. Ezreal is the favored pick of Loken. They've put him on this champion 3 times in a row before this series. They like to play around the top and the mid a bit more. So we could see some potential flexes into fighter top lanes. This is something that Zoom is actually very good on, a Jax player himself.
We'll have to see where that, Ornn ends up going. I'm about to say Malzahar. We always know where Malzahar is going. But now TOP, they're looking for their next champion here. Looks like Varus is the hover for QiuQiu, locked in very early on. So a bit of a role reversal for QiuQiu, taking that away from Loken on this other side of the map. And now it's TOP's turn to start banning away Clid's junglers.
Now this is a pretty good pickup from Ggoong, I feel like, because it really accentuates what they want to do in the bot lane. When you have that Varus ultimate coming down with the Realm Orb, it's very easy to pick up kills there. For Jingdong Gaming, we can see they have their Lee Sin banned away. Clid was incredible on that champion. What Top's read right now is that Jingdong is going to go for a full scaling composition. So what they want to do is they want to ban out junglers that can keep Jingdong's early game afloat. Lee Sin would be one of that. They can leave Kha'Zix on the table. That's fine for them. But I would say that Jarvan is probably the next one that they probably would ban out. They already have AP mid and top, so the Jarvan could give them a good early game. Oh,
the Jarvan was banned out a bit earlier. But oh, look at this. The Tahm Kench banned away from Mao to keep Loken safe and perhaps provide an opportunity to save someone who gets caught out of position. Another good champion that can bridge that early and mid game towards the late game. But still, Jingdong, a lot of respect towards Moyu in that top lane. Now that they see that jungle, AD, and mid have been picked up, they are focusing that down with the Gangplank, with the Camille. So perhaps Zoom feeling a little threatened here. We'll see how it follows up as TOP are looking for their support still and their top laner. Ooh, and perhaps could they just be running the exact same lane back against Jingdong?
It's pretty interesting because this is going to give them a lot of engaged power on their first wave in. If you can realm warp with the Taric, you can actually go into that composition, have 2.5 seconds of invulnerability, and just blast Jingdong's teamfight comp. Now, Jingdong right now, they do have to think about their defensive options. Both Braum and Alistar are pretty good at that. They want to keep their bot lane alive when that Ryze and Sejuani does come in.
We'll see what will be the final lock-in for Jingdong. Perhaps we're deliberating a little bit longer on that support, as that will be Kha'Zix locked in once again for Clid. Looked like a very comfortable performance in Game 1. Not quite flawless status, where he was all over the map, but ganking mid at level 3 to ensure Yagao had a safe landing phase, roaming around, maintaining vision against XX. So we'll see how that works out for him. You talked about some of the flexibility for these supports. This would put Ornn into the top lane, and that does mean Moyu gets his chance to pick a counter.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I feel this Taric pick needs to really... I'm not sure how it's going to show its value. Usually we would see the Braum pick for top on the fourth pick right there, just because it's such a good counter into the Ornn. So this Taric has to bring something special to the table to really justify itself being picked. And wow, we're actually going to see the Fiora in the top lane. Now, we have seen this in Kespa Cup, I believe. It was Smed picking up the Kleptomancy Fiora into the Ornn matchup. It is a good matchup for the top lane. However, it's very punishable. What we've learned from Worlds is that if you're going to pick a fighter matchup into a tank, you do need jungle pressure for continued aggression in that top lane. If you don't get that jungle pressure, a lot of times the Fiora is not going to be able to even go in on the tank for fear of a gank.
Well, in that case, it'll be up to XX to duel it out with Clid and try to contest some vision to give Moyu some more room to breathe. And of course, once Ggoong starts to get a few levels in that realm warp, he can start to engage in those fights as well and just teleport himself up to that half of the map to help bring down that Ornn. But coaches shaking hands here. Jingdong versus TOP. We're getting game number 2 ready for you right now as the players are loading onto the Rift. But TOP on a 14 match loss streak, and it just keeps on going and going. They now find themselves down in game number 1, trying to get back, but they don't have to win once in this best of 3 to close the series and get themselves out of this slump. They need to win twice against Jingdong, who are putting on better and better performances with nearly every game they play.
That's going to be a tough mountain to climb, especially for this game. I do feel like Jingdong has came ahead with the superior composition. They have a very clear goal, scale into the late game, and have a really easy teamfight composition. Sure, their jungler pick was kind of pinched. Kha'Zix, I don't feel like fits into this composition very well. He doesn't really help the lanes. But still, it's just a solid composition. And on the other hand, for TOP, I'm not exactly sure what type of a fight they're going to be looking for. I feel like they don't really have the composition, the pieces to go for that 4-1. Varus is not going to hold that mid lane very well.
It really seems like they're looking for pick or skirmish to me, because you've got the Sejuani, the hard engage from XX that was denied in game number 1. You've got the Varus ultimate to lock people down, Flash ultimate to try to get those kills. But as we load onto the Rift, it's going to come down to the execution. Will TOP be able to find it? Or will Jingdong, as you can hear their fans, be able to scale into the late game?
They do have that advantage on that Ryze roam when it comes to level 6, level 7. I do expect the Ryze to have that pressure in that lane. But the problem is they are going into a Ornn and Braum, so that could, that's kind of a dangerous proposition.
Yeah, muddy some things a bit. Of course, that's assuming that the Ornn and the Braum will be grouped up at that point in time and not putting Zoom on the split push on another side of the map. But still, again, it comes down to the composition. There's only so much theory crafting we can do here on the desk before it actually just comes down to what they actually do in game. So as you can see, fairly defensive starts, no invades or anything fancy going on, as looks like bottom side jungle start from both TOP and Jingdong. And as you predicted, that is the Kleptomancy on that Fiora.
We have seen this pick gone through a few times in Challenger and also the Kespa Cup, like we've just seen. To give you a little spoiler, that did not work out for Smeb, actually. Ornn is just such a powerful champion in the top lane. A lot of times, if you want to defeat him, you actually have to, I feel like you have to be better than him. You have to play the footsie so perfectly. You really need to dodge the last tick of Belois' breath for that brittle.
Oh,
and we've seen a level 2 come in.
Yeah, he's got his red buff. He's right there. Mao steps forward, flash, tags
Instantly.
onto QiuQiu. That's one. Oh, the stun managed to catch QiuQiu, but he's caught by the concussive blows.
have the
Burning
damage.
down. First blood, Loken.
And this is the second time we've seen Clid do this, also on Lee Sin on the previous game. He really likes to go for these set plays and surprise his opponents.
Clid, very creative. That's 3 flashes and an ignite. Burned for 2 flashes and a heal, and suddenly Jingdong's bottom lane is feeling great. Now Kha'Zix is trying to make the best of it. He's invading the blue buff right now. You can see Yagao pulled himself over. Ggoong is actually on his way over to help as well. Even Moyu is pushing up top, but Kha'Zix locks it down. He's able to get some sort of recompense for that first blood on the other side of the map.
So Kha'Zix is going to hit level 6 a bit faster now that he has a 3 buff start. Let's see if he can use it to try to help save that bot lane. That was so well played from Jingdong's bot lane. The Ezreal and the Braum work very well early levels just because your Q also counts as an auto attack, so you can proc that concussive blow very fast.
And that's exactly what we see right here. So much burn to engage, but they managed to tag the stun, and from there it's easy picking. Clement, you have how did you know that this replay was coming? That was excellent foresight.
Well, I just read Jingdong's playbook right there. It's just really clean games, and this is a reason why I feel like Jingdong is in a very good position to contest Rogue Warriors and Suning Gaming in the Eastern Conference for that playoff spot, is because they make a lot of very clean set plays in game, which is I kind of feel is kind of lacking from Rogue Warriors at times. Very good coaching staff, I feel, on Jingdong.
Yeah, and of course this is, while they might have been a team last split, this specific collection of 5 players here on Jingdong is still a very young team, so there's plenty of opportunity for them to learn and grow as the split progresses, perhaps becoming even more of a threat. Meanwhile, they still need to get through this series with TOP. Again, it's week 2, the first day of week 2, and we're already looking so far to the future. Zoom happily trading away with Moyu on the top half of the map. That Kleptomancy giving not 1 but 2 red elixirs. So Moyu is ready to start doing just a bit of damage there. Should he ever decide to trade with Zoom, but again, that Airy and the minion wave perhaps makes trading a little bit less favorable for Moyu than he would like.
The typical way this lane usually goes is the fighter kind of brings Kleptomancy, tries to farm up as much as possible, and when she finally gets her Ravenous Hydra or Triforce, then she can start to change the matchup around. But at this point in time, it's just too difficult to fight against tanks in the top lane.
Well, especially when that tank in the top lane is an Ornn who's able to build health items, build pretty much anything he wants to keep himself topped off. Meanwhile, some early wave clear. Oh, that didn't actually spot Clid. Managed to get around, but he will walk on top of the Scuttle Crab, giving himself away and looking to clear out this control ward recently placed by TOP, even fighting their vision. And really, we were looking for Clid to sort of affect the top half of the map. He goes bottom instead and makes something work for it.
Well, I guess you can say that he doesn't really need to come top right now. Moyu is already under a lot of pressure. If Zoom hits level 6 here, Moyu could just simply be soloed in the top lane. This is very interesting from Zoom. Bring that airy Ornn and bring it twice in a row, so it's definitely not a mistake for him. This is a planned new build we're seeing here in the LPL.
Seems to be effective so far as he's taking big chunks out of Moyu's health time and again. XX on the invade, seeing that Kha'Zix on the other side of the map, steps in to steal away the Gromp, catches Moyu as he just levels up, but Zoom level 6, not a huge amount of mana, as Clid will see that his Gromp is taken and misses the control ward, level 4 to level 5, XX. Ooh, sidesteps the spikes as well. Moyu gets himself that slow resistance, and he's actually chasing onto Clid right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ryze does not have the ability to leave lane at this point. Typically, we do see Ryze start to outmaneuver the Azir once he has his mana items going. level 7, level 6, level 7 is when we start to see that happen. But unfortunately for Kha'Zix right there, Ryze was unable to come into the fight. So even though he had the jump on him, has to back away from the scuttle.
Classic Ryze problems. Hey, can you come fight? I found him out in the river. No, I only have a tier. I feel like I've had to say that myself in a lot of games as well. But that's teleport to get Zoom back into lane. Finally all topped off as everyone seems to be content to just farm it up. Kha'Zix taking a much more proactive role in this game by contesting Clid's jungle a little bit, getting him away from the Scuttle Crab, buying some freedom for Moyu to skirmish back against Zoom.
And this is when we should start seeing the play come in for TOP. They really want that bot lane. Their entire draft phase was set up for that 4-man dive here. We could see Ggoong in the mid lane, already pushing the wave out, prepping this to be able to roam.
Actually heading towards the top side to clear out some vision. And look at how defensive Jingdong are being with their wards around the mid lane. Even some very deep vision placed by Clid as he looks to steal away the blue buff here, but Kha'Zix is on the way, and he's level 6. Clid does not have smite, and Kha'Zix does, so Clid has got to walk away even though his lane is here.
I think this is actually a very clever move from Jingdong. They know what's coming, so what they did was they actually delayed the back timing of their own bot lane just to set up the vision control around this area of the map, make sure that they aren't going to be taken unawares by this dive coming in.
But now that's blue buff passed over to Ggoong in the mid lane. That does mean Yagao is able to push up a wave and start placing some vision and clearing out the vision of TOP. So again, all about that vision, all about who can move and get the jump on the other team.
And do remember that for these compositions, the onus is really on TOP to have a better early game and not let Jingdong sit on this scaling composition and go into 30 or 40 minutes where the Gathering Storm and things like that really start to come out.
Well, they're about, what is that, 30% of the way there to that 30-minute mark, 8.5 minutes in, just below. Still though, Kha'Zix and the rest of TOP are trying to make plays happen. They've got plenty of vision on the blue buff on that top side of the river. It's going to be a little difficult to kill the Ornn, especially if Clid makes his way towards this side of the map, but he's got the timing on the blue buff respawn. He's ready to defend. Now Kha'Zix has been spotted by a control ward, and Zoom is allowed to back away, giving some freedom for Moyu to farm. And even Mao was pulled towards that mid lane just in case anything were to break out, but it looks like TOP, they're going to try to force the issue by skirmishing around this blue. But they decide to let it go as Clid steps forward and starts fighting back with some vision.
That was a really good catch of Mao leaving the bot lane, actually. Well done, Dominic. Well done, Dominic.
Thank you, Clem.
This is what a lot of the LPL games kind of feel like. A lot of times these skirmishes don't feel natural. Oh, Kha'Zix coming in and taking the blue buff. They don't feel natural because you feel like, wait a minute, this side is actually losing. Why are they still staying in the skirmish? And the reason is because their support is actually coming in from the bot lane. So those bot lane roams are very important to point out, especially in this LPL region.
Kha'Zix with the blue steal, further denying the sustain of that Azir in the mid lane, taking flash and cleanse, knowing that he could be subjected to some very big CC later on as Clid walks into Kha'Zix again, misses those void spikes. So close, but still so far. He's still going to try to finish off his Gromp, and Kha'Zix just happily contests him, though Yagao is on the way.
Kind of feel like TOP, their read on their own composition is that we want to play a 4-1. That's why they're invested so heavily in the top lane doing well. They're trying to get Fiora rolling early.
Oh, Clid with the sidestep, holding on to the leap. Going to jump away, but Kha'Zix is ready. Doesn't toss the Glacial Storm out, and Clid is allowed to walk away. Finally, Kha'Zix is able to claim his prize, but you can see how antsy Top is getting for these fights. They are trying to make something happen before Jingdong will start to scale into the late game monsters, but Jingdong just aren't biting.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised by TOP's decision here. They are putting a lot of faith in Moyu. That's the reason he's substituting over their original starting top laner in Ryze.
Yeah.
If you look at the map now, you'll realize that both Ryze and Sejuani do have priority in terms of moving around the map. Let's watch this. Probably nothing was going to come of this. But they're putting all of that into the top lane instead of the bot lane, where I actually feel that they have enough CC chains to play that, and they also have the Varus, which should be a pushing lane.
Oh, look at this. Clid takes a lot of damage, disrespects Ggoong, and eats some big health. Meanwhile, Mao chases in, catches up to the minions, misses Winter's Bite, but lands one hit of concussive blows. And you can see Fage is on the way to follow up. Unsealed Spellbook has given him teleport if he wants to get back to lane even faster. But still, XX and the rest of TOP, they want these engages so bad. They think they have caught out Mao here. They're looking for the stun. That Glacial Storm is still being held on to. Jingdong finally take the bait. They're looking for a fight. And they only tag the slow. Jingdong backing away. Loken on the side as a fight breaks out. Meanwhile, Zoom joined in. That's Azanya's to stop out Ggoong. He's retreating, though. And Jingdong are able to force TOP back.
So TOP had a good start to that fight. This is the priority we're talking about, Ryze over Azir. Mid laners like Xiaohu have also said that the reason I like Ryze is because he does have that early mid-game advantage over that Azir. You could see him kind of soloing out Clid and forcing Yagao back. But then TOP kind of look for a skirmish in this jungle. I still feel like they're missing the mark, not taking it to the bot lane where they have the CC to do stuff like this.
Caught Loken here. He's hit by the stun, but there's not enough damage under the turret. Fage even tanking hits, but Loken is just too healthy this far on. Meanwhile, some skirmishing with Moyu. Manages to hit that vital and just trades back. Moyu still proccing as many as he can. Ggoong was on that side of the map with Realm Warp, but still, TOP, if they were fishermen, they would be so frustrated because this fish, Jingdong, is not even nibbling at the bait that TOP are dangling.
So TOP, I feel like if it was executed better, they could have gotten something out of the jungle skirmish right there. But at this point, you can see they're kind of confused at what they want to do. Part of the team wants to play the 4-1 composition. They're saying, hey, we need to get this Fiora ahead. She is how we're going to win this game. But the other part also recognizes that, hey, man, the bot lane dive is so easy. Ryze has priority. You have Realm Warp. Also, Sejuani is ahead because of the level 2 gank from Clid. But they're failing to execute it and put it into a cohesive package.
Good slide onto Ggoong. He goes low. Realm Warp gets him under the turret, safe and alive. As teleport was used and canceled by Moyu to try to keep him safe.
Still no kills coming in from TOP. Remember, they do have a timer on themselves. 13 minutes in, we can see the gold lead actually slightly trickling back towards Jingdong.
Recall was actually completed there. XX spotted out on the side by Clid. Teleport being used now by Fage to try to catch up. That's Call of the Forge God. The target is going to be the support. Very squishy. No Cosmic Radiance to save him. And despite the Glacial Storm, it's not one, it's not two, but 5 members of Jingdong out of the blue erupt in the mid lane. They take first brick. They take that mid tier 1.
And that was a very good trade of towers right there. We could see that Jingdong had a losing tower in the top lane. This is going to go down no matter what. So they're just leveraging that and have Zoom come into the mid lane. And they even got first brick off it. So really good macro play here.
Now they're looking for that blue buff as it spawns. Yagao, he really wants it. He got denied the first 2, but look who's back. It's XX. He gets the steal for the 3rd time, my man. In and out. Sending a message. Teenage Faker, not today. Now Zoom trading back against Moyu. He did lose his top tier 1 on that side of the map. Knows XX is in his jungle, so just has to sit back and take some of this damage while he continues to catch minions here. But still, Zoom is having himself what looks to be a pretty great time.
Yeah, feel like Zoom should have a bit more gold on him to buy extra items. If you look at the items right now, Iceborne Gauntlets, 2,700 gold compared to the Ravenous Hydra, which I believe is 3,500. So it does seem like Zoom is kind of he's still deciding on what to pick up for his next buy.
Saving for the next big item, all at once suddenly turning on the Fiora, perhaps, that surprise effect of the Ornn. Rift Herald being finished off by XX, using the pressure that all of his lanes have placed. I mean, TOP have got the map lit up like a Christmas tree. They see the bottom lane of Jingdong are pushed in. They see that Ggoong has pushed in mid lane. Moyu has pushed in top. And TOP will use that opportunity to finish off that Rift Herald. So 15.5 minutes in. They've got it until about 19:30. But they have to make something happen with it. They cannot use it defensively like last game because the clock is ticking and Jingdong are getting bigger and bigger.
Pretty much. They need to find a way to place that Herald in the mid lane to try to push down that mid turret. It's incredibly important to take mid turrets against scaling team compositions that like to turtle up. And we see a 4-man coming in from Jingdong.
Looks like it is preempted by QiuQiu. He steps forward with Fage to get a stun onto Mao. This True Shot Barrage, I believe, went in between the both of them when there was no minion wave. So perhaps Loken fat fingering that one.
no teleport from Zoom. So Jingdong is kind of just a half-hearted attempt going into the enemy jungle and lighting it up with wards. Yeah,
that did have a lot of flexibility for them. It looked like they could have just backed away pretty easily should anything have broken out. But still, looking for the opportunity, not finding it, they turn around. And that's so different to compare to TOP, XX specifically, in that when TOP have been fishing for a play, they seem to commit 1 or 2 or 3 members, not just for a quick in and out, but for 30, 45 seconds. So Jingdong, they already seem to know TOP's style almost better than they do.
Yeah, TOP does sort of lack finesse when it comes to these map plays. For Jingdong here, just scaling out. The special thing for me is that we can see in the bot lane, Loken and Mao have been able to keep this lane pushed for so long.
Oh, that's Ghost. Clid is already at half health. He's snared. He's caught by the Glacial Storm.
Still gets the Drake.
And oh my gosh, the stopwatch. Wow.
I feel like Yagao is going to start questioning his junglers, like, okay, so you can do that with Drakes, but not with blue buff. What's wrong with you, man?
Why can't you give it to me? All right, Rift Herald used by XX. He knows Clid is low, so there's no support from the jungler. Sees both mid and top are on the other side of the map. This is just Loken and just Mao. Now, Teleport is almost ready for Zoom, but that's a lot of health on the Herald. Oh, and the turret gets chunked down, even with the minion wave. A single minion with barely any health, they're still able to break down the turret with that Rift Herald. So TOP, they might not be able to get the fight, but at the very least, they get the turret.
Yep, and that's a clean play for them. Next is how do you burst that turtle in the mid lane?
The Azir?
The Azir, like, they just want to scale up. And for Fiora right now, I feel like she's still a ways away from being that 4-1 split push composition that they really want.
Maybe tell him that Shurima is the worst. And then Yagao will be, what?
And try to get him to come out of that
Shurima shuffle, yeah. Okay. Try to get in.
Okay.
Oh, man.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah, it's the next level mind games, right? Flash the mastery icon several times to let him know. And then bait him with the psychological... I have no idea. My solo queue strategies are not going to work on the LPL stage. All right, Ggoong. Oh, picking up blue buff there. Getting a bit close with XX right there. You know, my jungler would have taken that blue buff, but alas, this is a higher level of play. Exactly, Raz.
Yeah, that's the thing we complain most about when playing with Raz. But he is on the analyst today, so let's... I don't want to go too deep
He's making a face at us right now. All right. So getting back into the game, TOP, they've grouped up now. They've got the roaming band of Ggoong with his level 2 Realm Warp, Fage with that Cosmic Radiance. But Yagao and Clid are skirting around the edges. XX on the invade, trying to deny the red buff to Loken and Mao, as they're still just happily clearing waves. But here comes Zoom from the side. That's going to be the big knock-up. Cosmic Radiance denies a lot of this damage and allows Ggoong to escape. But Zoom, he's looking like he wants to chase here. Yagao even walks in. Flash from Fage to get over the wall. Clid is on the far side. That's a good stun. True Shot Barrage, but they are chasing down the kill. XX tries to escape but does not succeed. And again, out of the blue, where are these lightning bolts coming from? As they are just taking yet another kill, and this time the tier 2 turret.
And this is the thing that I said about Moyu not having enough impact in the top lane just yet. It's not his fault. It's kind of the champion's fault. She needs more items to really be effective. And you can see Zoom there. He just walked down, didn't even need his teleport.
Yeah, Mao steps forward. That's the stopwatch. Loken managing to get the stun, but Mao flashes back to escape from the damage of Ggoong, and the turret is defended. But again, Lightning, you know, they say Lightning doesn't strike the same spot twice. I think Jingdong have just proved us wrong in this mid lane.
Yeah, that was a weird sequence of events from TOP because they obviously, they saw the initiation from Ornn coming in, and they still stayed around to have 2 more summoners blown on their team. And this is just kind of the problem I feel like with TOP's composition. I just feel like they're trying to do too many things at the same time, and they don't necessarily work together. They're still going to need a lot more time for Moyu to just farm it up and be that split push threat. But in the meantime, you can see Zoom not even have to expend his teleport. He just walked down the lane and got so much done.
Yeah. I mean, Raz on the desk earlier was saying that, that the TOP was setting, in game 1, they set for themselves goalposts that kept on moving, that kept on chasing further away. I feel like TOP in this game, they've set themselves some goalposts that are stationary, but they just can't get to it because Jingdong are standing in the way and preventing them from finding those goalposts, preventing them from finding those team fights that TOP wanted earlier on.
What I feel like is that they set up too many goalposts.
Ah, okay. So which ones are the correct goalposts?
Yeah, so they're pretty much committed into Moyu at this point, but
okay.
4-1 is a very difficult composition to work. The main reason I feel like 4-1 compositions fail in the LPL is not because it's not because you don't have good top laners that can play the fighting champions. It's usually because the 4-man gets caught out.
Yeah.
That happens way too often in the LPL, and that's a huge difference between like LCK and the LPL, where you traditionally feel like the LCK kind of has the upper hand in the knowledge in terms of how to play that 4-1 out.
Well, now you can see the play from Jingdong. They're looking to go top. A big sweep, but Ggoong with the reaction flash. Cleanse from Yagao gets him free of the snare, but this is still 4 members of JD up top. Mid is undefended, while Zoom is holding bottom. Moyu is trying to keep Zoom down here, but he doesn't exactly have any crowd control to prevent a teleport should Zoom desire a fight.
This is kind of what we're talking about again, but playing a 4-1 is not just about pressure in the bot lane. You also have to have pressure on your 4-man. That 4-man has to draw Jingdong members elsewhere on the map. But what makes this so difficult is they actually have a lot of champions that are very difficult in escaping. If you had Varus in your 4-1 composition, that's not a very good 4-1 ADC because he has very little escapes. So you can see right here that
Ooh, Clid has caught up to Moyu. That's the sidestep. Riposte is ready and completely dodged. Late flash from Moyu gets him to safety. Grand challenge for movement speed, and Moyu escapes with his life. Dragon is up in 10 seconds, though, and Moyu just drops a ward over the wall just to be safe and starts his own recall. He does have teleport ready. Jingdong do not find an opening with that, though, and the game continues to delay. The Ezreal is getting bigger. The Azir is getting bigger. The Ornn is getting bigger.
Yep, and that's going to happen every time that Jingdong has the mid lane push past River. So if they can get that, they can just simply collapse on Moyu and deny him chances to chip down on that bot lane tower.
Oh man, breadcrumbs for XX. Managing to take the Gromp, trading it over for an Ocean Dragon. Not exactly worth. As Yagao, cleaning up that wave, knows that he's unsafe, that the rest of his team is on the other side of the map, so doesn't even risk stepping forward past his tier 2 turret, while Loken, relatively safe with that arcane shift and his flash, is allowed to push up just a little bit further, but still so much respect from TOP. They don't want to take any chances. They're not taking the bait for these fights. Now they're only 300 gold ahead, but still, they've got time.
They are playing the I have to get things done composition, so being down gold is not exactly acceptable for them. The problem now is that their 4-man, they really have to use the Realm Warp to do engages. If you look at Jingdong, Yagao, he can slow them pretty easily, already has his Leandries done, and if you look at Ezreal, very cleverly picking up the Iceborne Gauntlet. So this is not a 4-man that you can really walk into. You have to find ways to engage and catch them out of surprise with that Glacial Prison or with the Realm Warp some way. So it's kind of tough for TOP to really put pressure and allow Moyu to put pressure in the bot lane as well.
But now look at this vision game from Jingdong. They've pushed up all the way to the top tier 1. Meanwhile, Mao and Clid were fighting over vision. They managed to get a lot of wards in top, knowing this side of the map was dark, come in to contest it. It's 3 versus 2, but they still don't know whether or not they can actually fight it as Yagao continues to push top. You still see Loken pushing up mid. And yes, while Moyu has pressure, he's not able to do anything with it. That's going to be quick snare onto XX. That's the Ignite as well. Cosmic Radiance to buy some time with a slow onto QiuQiu, but that's a big ultimate just used. Flash from QiuQiu to escape now.
That was actually one of TOP's best chances to get in the game, was take that 3v3 skirmish, but they were actually pretty afraid of the Azir coming in because he had that push pressure. I feel like they could have been able to take that. Realm Warp from Ggoong would have made that a 4v3 fight for a while.
Teleport from both Zoom and Moyu to get into the pit. The control ward is cleared, but another is placed. Ggoong in the back, assassinates Clid. The Baron is low. Slide is going to be stolen away. TOP managed to take it and ham Jingdong into the corner, but nobody puts That's Jingdong in the corner. That's a double knockup. Kha'Zix still snared. Zoom in the front, soaking as best he can, but there's no way for Jingdong to get out of here. Yagao hops over the wall. Arcane Shift. They managed to escape. I cannot believe it.
Realm Warp,
and that's going to be 3, no,
2
4
stuns.
members, but the big knockup. Riposte is late. They managed to burst down the Ornn. They managed to burst down the Azir, and they are chasing down the kills. Yagao hops over the wall and barely escapes, but that's a piercing arrow to lock down the kill, and TOP suddenly are back in this game.
A beautiful play from Ggoong right there, sniping out the enemy jungler so he could not flash. Kha'Zix comes in with the smite and steals away Baron. They're all locked into that small corner. Jingdong thought they could get away for a moment, but Realm Warp cuts right between them, and we could see now why Taric was chose over the Braum right there. Even though Braum can block the Ornn's ultimate, you can't make that play with Braum. So Taric pick really showing its worth.
And now TOP using this opening to swing down the mid lane like a wrecking ball. They break 2 turrets back to back, and they're looking for the inhibitor here, but Kha'Zix, with 3 hits of the concussive blows, has got to back away as the inhib is still standing, but Moyu works on and finally finishes off that top tier 2. 5 turrets to 2, now a sudden 5,000 gold swing.
Let's watch that again. Clid is very low. Sees Ggoong coming in, but it's too late. He cannot react fast enough. And with the smite, that's fairly simple for Kha'Zix. Even though Azir tried to push him out, Yagao was a little bit late. Let's watch this. The Ornn ultimate does get double knockup, but that does not help Jingdong escape. Now Jingdong's thinking about it. They know they can all hop over this wall here, but Ggoong's got Top's back, goes in, gets a 4-man stun right there with the Taric. And that was just beautiful to watch.
Despite excellent attempts from Jingdong to escape, TOP, they finally are able to follow through, and this is what their composition was meant to do, to lock people down and do as much damage as possible with that Ezreal, with that Ryze and the Fiora. But still, 27.5 minutes in. They've got Baron for a full minute and 45 seconds. That's another 3 minion waves that Jingdong have got to worry about. However, TOP seems to be taking a breather. They're recalling, they're getting items. That's 3 items now on the Varus, 3 items on Ggoong, 3 items even finished on Moyu.
And are we going to see the first win for TOP coming in this 2018 season? I kind of felt like that teamfight was gifted a little bit from Jingdong. So what Jingdong was thinking that, hey, we just forced the flash, the summoners out of Cho-Cho, we can make this play, you know, we're better as a 5-man unit, but they just forgot to look at Clid's health. Somehow Clid took a bunch of damage and was able to be soloed by Ggoong coming in with the flash.
It's these small mistakes, and TOP able to prey on that mistake to get themselves in this game. Now Moyu is pushed up. That's going to be a very neat blast cone. Guardian Angel still on Moyu. He's got his flash. Riposte delays some of the damage. He gets out, but that's a stun.
Coming in.
Great Glacial Storm managing to slow Zoom. And as the fight breaks out, Realm Warp over the wall to keep Yagao out of this. Ggoong catches up, but it's all chaos. Loken's on the wrong side of it. Cosmic Radiance to keep them delayed. Meanwhile, Ggoong is now on the wrong side. He shields himself up, but there's nowhere he can go. Loken is going to harass TOP on their way out, and Jingdong managed to win the skirmish.
Yeah, it does seem like at the end, Yagao was able to use Emperor's Divide to push Ggoong back into their own base and basically cut him off for the rest of his teammates. For TOP, I feel like that was kind of a split push assignment type of mistake. For Jingdong, they didn't even use any teleports. Were able to wrap around Moyu and make that pick on him.
Now the Cloud Dragon has been started by TOP, but they back away. And suddenly that Baron that was so effective for them in breaking down these turrets isn't used to siege at all. It's used to defend themselves as Jingdong turn it right back around, taking a fight, finding a kill, taking a tier 1 and a Cloud Dragon. Still 4,000 gold down, 3.5, but catching back up to TOP.
Yeah, TOP really wanted to spread out their lanes. They went for a 1-3-1 in trying to get towers after that Baron buff, but unfortunately for them, Jingdong was able to get behind them fairly easily, and TOP still opted for the 5v5 team fight. This basically means that their Baron is down to... It's
gone,
actually.
Yeah, it wore off while they were retreating away from the Dragon. And while TOP was gifted an opportunity to get back right into the game, that gift horse can just as easily be taken back by Jingdong. This is the return policy.
If they want to play the 4-1, they really need to understand how how this composition works. They really need pressure on both sides, the 4-man and the 1-person pushing as well. I want to see if TOP can make that work. Their 4-man is actually quite powerful. If you look at the 4-man versus Jingdong and Top, if they butt heads, I actually feel like TOP's 4-man could come out ahead, so they should not be hesitant in grouping as 4 and trying to push down turrets.
Still taking it slow. 1, 2, and 2 for TOP as XX, he's just running around, fighting for vision, doing everything he can, but here's another sweep onto Ggoong. They have got his flash on timer. Ghost gets him away, but not away enough. Clid catches up with another kill for Jingdong.
That was just too easy for Jingdong. No pressure anywhere else on the map. They're fighting a 2v1 in the bot lane as well, so a very easy pick coming in for Clid. Again, I feel like TOP could have played this better by grouping FS4. They still would have won a 4v4 against Jingdong if Zoom was still locked in the bot lane.
Ooh, this could be a clever collapse. XX over the wall. Clid immediately spots him. Glacial Storm is ready. Who's the target? XX tags onto Yagao. A quick cleanse, but the slow follows up. XX goes in. That's Cosmic Radiance to get away from the Emperor's Divide. True Shot Barrage doesn't do any damage, but still, it clears out the minion wave, and Jingdong, as 5, are ready to push, even teleport from Zoom.
Yeah, and what this push is going to do is it's going to slow down Moryu's pacing in terms of the foreign composition. You can see once Moryu saw the teleport go down, he had to back and then run towards the top lane. So this is going to give Jingdong more time to scale up.
Ooh, there's
Engage
the call of
coming
the
in.
Forge God. Who's the target? It's QiuQiu. He's knocked up. That delays the wave clear. XX dies. Moyu looks for the flank, but they've already lost their front line. Zoom still in the front. Mao backing away. Clid is going to eat a lot of damage here from this challenge. Meanwhile, they continue to chase it forward. TOP trying to collapse, but they're 3 versus 5. They're just hemorrhaging members.
That was a great volcanic rupture from Zoom right there, cutting off the carries from coming into Jingdong's composition. Right there, even though XX was down, Top's carries still had a lot of health. They could still fight. They could have won that skirmish right there, but very clever thinking from Zoom, knowing that he could cut off that passage in the top lane.
Just like that, Jingdong are now only 300 gold behind TOP. Suddenly that Baron they gave up means nothing, and now they're following it up with a quick Baron rush, a page out of TOP's book, and TOP have no idea. It goes down, and Jingdong swing the momentum right back.
Jingdong able to pick it up before XX even revives. There was no chance for a steal right there, and they're also going to get all this topside vision.
Immediately pushing right back in to try to finish the job they started a few moments ago. Yagao pushes the wave up, but it's a quick recall from all 5 members of Jingdong before they push again. They've got items to finish off, and they are ready to take the fight back to TOP.
The question for TOP right now is how do they set up these waves so they can have pressure on Moyu? If Jingdong are able to keep all 3 lanes past River at the same time, then I feel like this Fiora pick is kind of nullified a lot. She doesn't have the same raw knock-up and CC power as Ornn does in the 5-man. So if they can't set up a slow push somewhere in one of these lanes, it's going to be very difficult for Top to defend.
The wave top looks to be their best opportunity, but Jingdong already grouping up bottom, looking to try to break down that final tier 2 of TOP on the far side of the map.
Yeah, it does look like the top wave is going to be what's going to hold Jingdong back, but it looks like Jingdong are pushing a little too fast now, already threatening the inhibitor.
Looking for this inhibitor turret, as you mentioned earlier. We've seen no signs of hesitation from Jingdong with their sieges, with their fights. The call of the Forge God from Zoom, traditionally used to open these fights up. And there it goes, the Horn of Battle. Double knock-up onto XX and QiuQiu. Cosmic Radiance is used. Snare onto Zoom. Grand Challenge would give true damage if Moyu actually got to fight, but it's Loken on the side who gets damage onto XX, the Iceborne Gauntlet, with a slow as they continue chasing. That's a snare, and they're turning onto the inhibitor now. Finally trying to break it down, but this is not going to be something that goes down without a fight. TOP back away, losing another part of their base.
Yeah, and I felt like TOP were actually a bit hesitant to go on. Once the Cosmic Radiance was on, I felt like they all should have gone in at the same time. But you could see Chocho holding on to his ultimate for a later time. Ggoong not using his Realm Warp to really seal this fight. So instead of getting a possible engage that could turn the fight, remember, they're not down by very far in terms of gold. They actually just bleed out the bottom inhibitor.
now that that pressure is there, Jingdong siege their next lane. Looks like mid is the target. And as a matter of fact, top actually was slow pushing for Jingdong.
Yep, and that's pushing advantage. If you have higher levels than your opponent, that will naturally happen.
Slow onto Fage, the cooldown for Call of the Forge God. He tries to lead it too much, but Fage, chunked down to half, is going to escape unless Yagao says no and tries to prevent it. Still, they're looking for Moyu. They want these kills before turning to the Elder Dragon. GA is back up, but a great Emperor's Divide pins him to the wall. XX is slowed and finally will be assassinated. Moyu flashing away. He's going to try to buy time, but Loken chases it up. A delayed riposte isn't going to save his life. Another two are dead. They ignore the dragon. Clement Jingdong could be trying to close this series right here.
And outside of the screen, they actually managed to chase away Ggoong. He was very low health, could not come into the fight. A beautiful cutoff from Jingdong right there. And now they're going to play a 5v3 defense.
Baroned up super minions, plus a lot of melees for reduced damage. Cosmic Radiance popped early by Fage. He steps in, stun, sidestep, but already the first turret is down. They get the knockup, but a late Zhonya's from Ggoong keeps him safe, but only safe enough to be swarmed on the way back out. Another knockup as Mao, he goes low, happy to sacrifice his life so that his team might win the game, but QiuQiu is going to try to buy as much time as he can. Still, it's one against the world. TOP, they step further into the desert of despair. They find themselves at the hands of another loss, and Jingdong win the series 2-0.
Managed to take out that game fairly easily. There was a point in the game where I felt like TOP could have made several good plays. They had the advantage in the mid, in the jungle, didn't go bot lane with it, and they also had the Baron play that was deflected because of the scattered nature of their kind of split push composition. Was very easy to pick off for Jingdong, and congratulations to Jingdong on their second victory in the LPL so far.
Now stepping over to shake hands with TOP. A difficult situation now for TOP. They're going to have to find something to revitalize them, try to get themselves back into the split, because this loss streak cannot be allowed to continue. But still, though, we did see some signs of life from TOP, some clever plays over the course of this series, but clever plays alone are not enough to win it. Jingdong, on the other hand, they demonstrated perhaps why they might be in contention for one of those last playoff spots in their conference.
Yep, the Eastern Conference is really heating up. The people we are looking at, Rogue Warriors, Suning, and Jingdong at the same time, all vying for that fourth place playoff spot. There really can only be 2 out of the 3. I feel like RNG and IG are pretty much locked into the upper echelons of that conference. So it's going to be, today was actually incredibly important in terms of Eastern Conference standings.
Yeah, perhaps a bit of a forecast of those later standings. Of course, it is only week 2, so we've still got 8 more weeks of LPL before we can see that for certain. That was, look, it happens to the best of us. Sometimes you hit yourself in the face with a USB cable. Sometimes you hit the enemy team with an Ash arrow. You win some, you lose some.
That doesn't matter for him. He looks fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Teenage Faker
cool
there. Yagao, absolutely. Looking very cool as he makes his way backstage to close out that series. But Jingdong putting on a great showing for us. And just take a look at that swing. TOP, it looked so good for them. 7,000 gold ahead, and then almost just as quickly as they gained it, it dropped right back.
Yeah, and all it took was a single pick on Ggoong to change that. So I feel like TOP, they still have a lot of work to do in the macro game, but what we can say about their recent series against RNG, against Jingdong, is that they have been finding success in the early phases of the game, and that is something that they didn't find in the previous split.
And perhaps they could try to manipulate this success into a new strategy for the team, because we are seeing the fact that they aren't just rushing the Baron, they are trying some new strategies. But now to help us break down that game and what exactly happened for Jingdong and TOP, we're going to toss it back to our analysts.
Thanks, guys. And Raz, what exactly happened for JD and TOP in that game?
For TOP, it was just a case of experimentation, just to see what they can do, what style actually fits. Do they want a team fight? Do they want a 1-4? What's actually easier? I felt like this was a good step to kind of see if the whole 1-4 worked, but they never tried it. They never tried it, Frost. What do you want?
Let me pop the brakes. You're telling me that a team that is about to go, has now gone 0-15, just wanted to experiment, just to test the waters?
Look, it's week 2. You're in the spring split.
You're already 0-15.
Yeah,
You might as well just keep
you
going.
have to. Like, they don't really have the answer because a lot of the questions are like, do they have the individual talent? And sure, Ggoong actually had a pretty damn good game individually. Even though he would make some like sick plays, or like you look towards the rest of the map, is anything gonna happen? No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen. Nothing's really happening there. But it looks like team play was a big thing for me. Yagao picks up man of the match because not only was he playing well in the game, but he was also moving with the team. And so he made some sick, you know, Shurima shuffles. It really helped the team out a lot of the times, because the big thing about Jingdong and why it was such a one-sided affair was because Jingdong, whenever the play happened, it always seemed like there were 5 people walking at you. And whenever, or at least whenever top
like
went for something,
they understand League of Legends and work together in one
not
direction.
necessarily an answer. At least Jingdong had an answer. But TOP, when they went for a play, it was always just like a 1 versus 1. People didn't move towards the play.
Okay, so is there anything to be salvaged here? I mean, we keep saying this over and over again. What do you change with TOP? How do you fix any of this? And at some point, you just have to throw the book at him. You just say there's nothing here to fix.
No, there's always VOD works, right? Because a lot of these people, I would say, they're still green. Like QiuQiu, we've only seen him for about a few splits, right? A lot of the plays, even Fage.
Inexperience?
Inexperience is one thing, and just kind of looking back at the video footage, the communications, because remember, if you're in a professional team, they had access to your comms. You can just pick it up, go back to your house, and just kind of listen to it. A lot of that self-reflection will do them a lot of good, and they do have time, since just because it's week 2 of the spring split.
Okay, cool. Then the last question I've got you for before we move on to our next set of games is going to be Clement talking about Suning, Rogue Warriors, and JD. Who do you think is the odd man out there? Where do you rank them?
I'll still say that JD they need to show me something.
So you think it's Suning Rogue Warriors right now for the last playoff spot?
Just because we've seen them when they were in a competitive set. The reason why this is not so competitive is because they've gone towards and
caliber of
demolished. Yeah, they've beaten LGD and TOP. They're going up against IG next, which is going to be when I really start to formulate 100% a stance on how their strategy is working, because we've seen these 5v5 teams before, and when they get tested of whether or not it's a good decision, then they have fallen. That used to be the Dan strategy, or at least last split. You know what? We're fighting 5v5, and then realize, wait a minute, when the strategy comes into play, it doesn't work out.
Cool, thank you. Raz himself has spoken. That said, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the standings so we can kind of recap what's happened on day 1 here. Excuse me, we're not going to take a look at the standings. Instead, we're going to look at tomorrow's matchup. Sorry about that one, guys. So Tuesday, Wednesday, we will not be casting, or we will not have an English broadcast. That said, you can still follow all the LPL action on the Chinese platforms at Huya and Douyu and Huya.com. Excuse me there. Tomorrow's matchups Tuesday will be Snake versus WE, as well as LGD versus RNG in the LGD Hangzhou Arena. Hopefully they can actually find a win there, and it won't just be Snake having their home victory in Arena. On Wednesday, it's JD Gaming against Invictus Gaming and BLG versus OMG. Any of those matches you looking forward to?
I would say Snake versus WE. It's fun. That's going to be tomorrow's matchup.
Especially because they just took down EDG. Then we'd have a full circle. But the matches that we will be covering and coming back to you on Friday is going to be Billy Gaming versus Edward Gaming, and then Vici Gaming versus WE. So big brother versus little brother. It's
just fun that EDG is making just the go around at all the teams that were in the same neighborhood, going up against BLG that are up there, first place in that group. No one expected it, and now EDG's got to check them.
Yeah, so again, we will be broadcast back on Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday, we will be off, but you can cover all the action or find all of the action. Excuse me. Wow, I'm just fumbling all my English words on the Chinese streams. That said, before we go, we are going to have one final interview, so Clement will be right back after this break.